There's 5 essential components to a business story. Have a look over my shoulder. I'll explain what they are. Firstly, there has to be a sequence of events. This happened, then this, then this, then this. If there's no sequence, it's not a story. So many times I hear the word story used, they're not talking about a sequence of events. It's not a story. You go to a company website, it says our company story, and you're told that they're the number one at this, they operate in 15 countries, this and that, but no story because there's no sequence. So that's the first thing. Number 2, there needs to be a framework. This is a framework, this is a simple framework, and there are others, but this one has a setting, a complication, a turning point, and a resolution. It's a very simple framework. A movie or a novel might have many complications, many turning points, but this is a simple one for a 1 or 2 minute oral story. So that's the second thing, we need a framework. If we don't have a framework, if we don't use a recognized framework for our story, it'll be confusing. The third thing is, we must have something surprising happening. There has to be a surprising, unpredictable part to our story, or it's not going to be very interesting, nobody's going to listen. So this complication through to the turning point, this is what's interesting and surprising. It must be unpredictable. The fourth thing is, it should involve a character. A human character, because we're interested in what happens to other people and we learn through the experience of the other person in the story. That's how we learn from stories. So it's very important that that this story turns on one main character, and that character is going to change. They're going to transform as they go through the journey of the story. And the fifth thing is, the final thing is, we have to make a business point. It's just entertainment, it's a joke for the barbecue or the pub if it doesn't make a business point. We'll just be seen as time wasting if we don't make a point. Okay, let's look at an example from the 7 Stories book. So one of the most famous companies in the technology industry is HP, formerly Hewlett-Packard. They were founded in 1938 in California, and in the early days of the company, one of the founders, Bill Hewlett, went into work on the weekend and found that the tool room with all the equipment in it was locked. So he took a fire axe and smashed the door down, and then he left a note on the door which said, "This door will never be locked again because we trust our people." Short story, we call that a values story. So let's have a look. Firstly, the events. Went into work on the weekend, tool room locked, smashed the door down with an axe, left a note. Sequence of events. So that's the first thing. We've got a sequence. Second thing is, we're following the simple framework. We've got a setting. A time, 1938, a place, California. We have a complication, the door was locked. We have a turning point, the door was smashed down. We have a resolution, we left a note, this won't happen again. So we've got the second point, we've got the framework. Got our sequence, we've got the framework. Third thing, it's unpredictable. It's very highly unlikely that the CEO of the company smashes the door down. So we've got the third thing. It is unpredictable. Finally, we have character who goes through this story. That's Bill Hewlett. And we make a business point. What is the point of this story? Well, this story is a value story. It's the leader telling his people how he expects them to behave. He expects that people trust each other. It's very interesting. Hewlett-Packard had a way of working which was known as the HP way, and it influenced a lot of people. Steve Jobs, former CEO of Apple, got his first job at HP. So this is a very powerful story. This story probably made one of the most important companies of the 20th century. So those are the 5 essential elements of a business story. It must be a sequence of events, this, then that, then this, otherwise it's not a story. It should be in a recognizable framework. This is a very simple one. If it's in that framework, people will understand, they won't be confused. There has to be something unpredictable or surprising happening in your story, or it's not very interesting. It should turn on one character. You should choose one character to be the central character of your story, because then we can learn from that character. We can learn from what happens to them. And finally, it must make a business point, or you're wasting people's time. And when you meet clients, customers at a high level, you don't want to be wasting their time. You must make a business point. So you have to think about these 5 elements of your story. And if you don't have these elements, if you're missing one or more of these elements, then the story probably won't work. Thanks very much for listening. I'm Mike Adams.